One News, your place for politics, the issues and races affecting our valley. This is Decision 2026, 5 at 5.
The May 5th primary election is just weeks away, and we're helping you get to know the candidates. We're focusing on the race for Ohio State Representative for the 58th District, which represents portions of Mahoning County. In this race, Basia Adamczak, John Bacheri, and Jordan Pegues are all vying to be the Democratic candidate. Ohio 58th District Democratic candidate Basia Adamczak is here now. Thank you for coming in. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you represented Youngstown's 7th Ward for 8 years. How do you think that experience will help you if you're elected in this position?
I actually have the unique experience of now both. So I was a legislator for 8 years and, passing legislation and seeing that portion of the process. And then the last 2 years, I was working at Job and Family Services. So on the administrative standpoint, to see how those policies then affect people firsthand. So I have that unique experience of both on top of living the day-to-day challenges that our district faces.
Property taxes have been a hot topic, of course, here in the state. There's a push to abolish them. But the State Office of Budget and Management is calculating that this means around $24 billion would be lost from the state. What is your stance on property taxes and what we should do with them?
Cutting taxes, everybody wants to do it. I want to cut them too, but we cannot sit here and pretend that if we slash the taxes, that it's not going to create another burden and another challenge. So that's something definitely important to think about, because communities like ours, we rely on those for safety forces, for schools. So it's important just to make sure that there is a plan in place. But we definitely need some type of change and some type of reform to make sure that we're able to help our elderly, those people that really are facing, budgetary and economic constraints, and those that are longtime homeowners. We need to help those people. Yeah,
you touched on it a little bit. There's law enforcement, libraries, schools, parks. How do we fund those programs if we lose property taxes?
Right, and that's the thing. It's so easy to come up with these plans and to say it sounds good, but it's also irresponsible of legislators or politicians to do that if there is not a plan, because the reality is then the burden shifts onto something else. And I think it's so important for us not to feed residents fluff and dreams, and as I call it, not feed them BS with a spoon and call it chocolate pudding. We need to be realistic. I much prefer to let residents know and the community know what challenges we face. These are the potential alternatives, and to those, what are the pros, the cons, and consequences, and not just for today or a few years down the line, but even the next generation. How are these things going to affect those people as well?
Right. Education is a main policy focus for you. If elected, what funding or programs would you like to see brought into schools?
Yeah, I think it's a combination. I think we need to look at our public school system, and I'm actually a product of Youngstown City Schools, as are my daughters, and we need to make sure that we have the funding to be able to fund our public schools and our children, because they are our future. But we also need to make sure that there's funding for universities, that we look into trades, because it's a balance of both. Both have to be looked into.
As the 58th District Representative, how would you help revitalize the Valley? Because there's so much talk about revitalization, creating jobs, investing in our community. And
I think right now we're in a somewhat of a good position because there has been an increase, and we have a great amount of partners here in the community. We have the YBI, the Regional Chamber, with the Port Authority, the university. So we have a lot of good partnerships. There's a lot of good ideas. We have a lot of land. It's making sure that that's available. But I think most important is to make sure that we have the residents in the workforce that is then able to come, and when these industries do come, that we have the workforce that's able to then fill those jobs. So we need to make sure that our residents are set up for success when the industry does come.
We've been reporting a lot about data centers here in the Valley. Our last 101 West program focused on that, the concerns that are dealt with noise pollution, electric rates, of course, but do we really need them also? As it stands now, state regulations surrounding these centers seem pretty thin. How would you propose keeping electric rates in check for people?
So, and I think the data centers, there's a potential of them coming in and doing some good, because it is bringing industry, it is, creating economic development, but we need to also look at two other things. Number one, what other challenges is coming with that? One of them, are we giving too many tax abatements with those things? But then, like you mentioned regarding our resources and utilities, we cannot have the industry come and then put it on the burden of our residents. So if the electric grid needs updated, that shouldn't be put into hidden fees that our residents then have to pay. That is something that I feel at that point that the company that is coming needs to invest into that as well, because I think it's at a point where everything is trickling down to our residents, but these corporations that are coming have to step up and help as well with some of these, financial challenges.
20 seconds. Why should voters put you in?
Because I'm ready, I'm prepared, I am passionate, and I live here. I have lived in the city of Youngstown, now almost 40 years, ever since coming to the United States. I never left the city. I raised my family here. I'm going to stay here, and like I said, I am a big proponent of letting residents really know what is happening. I'm not willing to just tell them what they want to hear at, the fear of losing votes. I want to set up this generation and the future generation for success. And why? Because I live here and I plan on continuing to stay here.
All right. Basia Adamczak, representative for the 58th Ohio State Rep District. We appreciate you coming in.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.